We're going to start off talking about England. We'll get your views. So many big decisions the manager Gareth Southgate has made. Let's hear from him now, actually, ahead of England's friendly against Scotland and qualify against Ukraine, both, of course, live on talkSPORT. He's been speaking about first-time call-ups for Eddie Nketiah and Levi Colwill.
We've had a lot of people at the back with issues, so we've had to make changes there. And the only other change then is Eddie, who's coming in because it's an area where we'd like to have a look at him. He's a young player with a really good pedigree, very good finisher. And it's good for him to have some time with us. You know, he's, I think, record goal scorer with the under-21s as well. So he's not had the chance to work with us up to this point, but he's a player that we're really interested in.
You were buzzing when we both heard the news that Eddie Nketiah had been called up. You've been rightly so. He's done enough.
I mean, listen. The only thing I'm glad that he's in there because I think he's played well this season for Arsenal. Scored obviously 2 goals this season in his first 3 appearances. Looked really sharp. The one I feel sorry for is Ollie Watkins. I think that's probably the one I'd go. It's hard because you've got Ollie Watkins who's got 6 goals in his last 10 appearances. That's including the back end of last season as well. So he hat-trick this season against Hibernian. Has played really well, even against in the results this season. Even though he hasn't maybe got the goals to match his performances, other than the Hibernian game, I think he's played really well. And back in the last season, he was very good. You've got Callum Wilson, who's got 1 goal this season, coming off the bench, so he hasn't really. But again, he's got 7 goals in his last 10, including the back end of last season where he was on fire. So I feel for Ollie Watkins, but for Eddie Nketiah, it doesn't surprise me that Gareth would call him up because we've already heard Gareth before talk about he likes kids that have come through the system, so they understand what it means to be on international duty. So Eddie Nketiah is the record goal scorer for the under-21s. So the natural progression is for him to move to the senior team. So I almost feel that with Gareth, if there's a decision to be made between 2 players that are incredibly close, if one has come through the England's kind of system and he's worked with them before and he knows the system, they're going to get the call up more than the guy who hasn't. So maybe that's why he got the nod over Ollie Watkins, maybe. But I'm happy for him, but listen, there's still some inclusions in the squad where you just go, wow.
Okay, well, let's start with those. I want to start with Jordan Henderson. I know he's your mate, right? Let's be honest about this. He's your mate.
Yep.
And it's very difficult for everyone to talk negatively about their mate.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I think he should be in the squad and captain.
Right, okay. But it's not his decision.
I know.
Right? It's Gareth Southgate's decision. And he has decided to call up a player who he probably hasn't watched that much of this season, who is playing in a league which is basically a pub league.
Yeah.
Right? The level of that league is nothing compared.
Some expensive pub league. That
I know, but the level of opposition
is, of course,
is going to be appalling, right? So what does that tell you? We'll include Harry Maguire in this conversation because Maguire has played no football.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about Gareth Southgate? It tells me that form is completely irrelevant and he only picks his favourite.
With the Jordan one, he might have looked at that situation in the middle of the park and thought experience. And you're right, it's not Jordan's fault. I thought once he went to Saudi, maybe that might be it in terms of international call-ups, but clearly it hasn't. But he still played some form of football. So he's still got a level of fitness. Played for Liverpool last year, played in the Saudi Arabia League this year. I think for Harry Maguire, you talk about a guy who's made not 1 minute of football this year, not 1 minute anywhere this season. He made 16 appearances last season. He started 8 games. So effectively, he could have started 8 Premier League games in just over a year, in over a season. Which is, how can you pick someone on that type of form?
I don't know.
And I get it. He always goes about experience, and we haven't got enough of experience. I understand that, but I thought that's what friendlies were for. I thought friendlies were to have a look at people. Right, he's done well for his club side. Let's see if he can step up to the next level. He's got in the squad Levi Colwill, who's done well at Brighton last season. I like him at Chelsea. Mark Gahey, I like him. Crystal Palace. Lewis Dunk, who I think should have way more caps than he's got. Fikayo Tomori. So you've got 4 centre halves there. Worst case scenario, you go to a back 3. You put Kyle Walker as the third one of the 3. You've got options there. I know you haven't got John Stones. I fully understand that, but you need to have a look at other players to make sure they can step up because. You can't tell me Harry Maguire will be England's best option in that role if he hasn't started a single game this year. You just can't. And Levi Colwill's played it all season. We know Mark Gahey and Lewis Dunk and Fikayo Tomori are probably going to play pretty much every game all year. You can't tell me England go into that tournament in the summer in a stronger position when one of their players hasn't played any football at all.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get an argument out of anyone. And also on top of that, just underlining the fact that he's not picking players on form. No James Ward-Prowse.
That again, bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. James Ward-Prowse has been one of the. I think you might think of Maddison. I think James Ward-Prowse has been the bargain of the season. I think he has started for West Ham incredibly well, which is why they've started incredibly well. But what kind of message does that send out? It doesn't really matter how well you play. I've got my favourites, and you have to work around that. I think at some stage you have to drop that kind of way of thinking and go, right, going into a major tournament, I need players that are playing well and in form. And right now, James Ward-Prowse should be in the squad.
Okay.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.